Last week on the YuGiOh subreddit, I did an AMA, and a question I got asked a lot was which gimmick deck I'd like to see new support for. And then a few days later, DZF made a video about custom cards, which then gave me the idea to try and create custom cards to support a gimmick deck. And the archetype I decided to choose was the Law of the Normal, one of my favorite gimmick decks, and one I've been playing since the Synchro era. Now, for the cards I made, I decided to give myself a couple of limitations. First one being, I was only going to make 5 of them. And of these 5 cards, they kind of had to fit the theme of what the Law of the Normal deck was trying to do in the first place, and also completely make it viable, while not being completely broken. So, before I show you the custom cards I made, I'll show you what the archetype tries to do in the first place. The Law of the Normal deck is basically trying to get out 5 level 1 normal monsters, and then activating Triangle Power to give them all 2000 attack, and then activating Law of the Normal to send all cards in both players' hands in the field to the graveyard, except level 2 or lower normal monsters. Since Triangle Power only works on level 1 monsters though, the version of the deck I used the most was one that only used level 1 monsters, despite the fact that Law of the Normal works on level 2 monsters as well. So the main themes of the deck are swarming normal monsters and giving them an attack boost so that they can attack after using Law of the Normal. Which brings me to my first custom card, Law of the Normal Revival. I decided to give them all Law of the Normal in the name because one of the biggest flaws that Law of the Normal deck has, besides the fact that it runs a whole bunch of level 1 normal monsters, is the fact that there's no way to actually search out Law of the Normal. So all the support cards have Law of the Normal in their name, so they can be searched out. With some of the other cards, I can search them. So for this one, the effect is to target 1 to 5 level 1 normal monsters in your graveyard, and then special summon them. And then you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. This is so it can't be used for link plays and other things, because the theme of the deck is to beat down with these normal monsters, not further extra deck plays. I'm not going to say nobody likes to do that, but it's boring to see extra deck plays with gimmick decks. It's more fun to see them actually win doing what they're supposed to do. The next part of this effect is all the monsters special summon with this effect have their original attack set to 2000. Another one of the big problems with Law of the Normal decks is not only is there no way to search out Law of the Normal, there's no way to search out Triangle Power either, and you need both of them in order to OTK. So a couple of the custom cards I made basically have the Triangle Power effect built into it. Except this one's a little bit better. Since it sets their original attacks to 2000, it can be further modified by other things, instead of just increasing it by 2000. And all level 1 normal monsters have 500 or less attack, so this is nothing but a plus for them. And its last effect is basically the graveyard effect of Return of the Dragon Lords, where if face-up level 1 normal monsters would be destroyed, you can banish this card instead. So this one card basically allows you to get off the entire combo on its own. It gives you the 5 monsters with the swarm, it sets all their attacks to 2000, and it has some built-in protection. Since level 1 normal monsters do basically nothing on their own, they are completely reliant on their support cards. So a lot of these cards are going to be like somewhat broken levels of powerful, and even then, this archetype is still not going to be good even if these cards were printed out, just because of the inherent disadvantage of running so many normal monsters in your deck. Okay, the next one is going to be the only trap card from the bunch, and it's basically the Amazoness Onslaught of the deck. I should also probably mention the card artwork for these. I might have put, I had a lot of fun making them, so I might have put a little bit more effort into them than was really necessary for this video. So what I did for most of them was just take out the card artworks from their various different appearances and other cards, and then just add a cartoon filter to it, so the art style from all the various cards they were taken from kind of blended together. Anyways, so its first effect is basically all of your level 1 normal monsters have an Eater of Millions effect, where if they battle a monster, you can banish your opponent's card face down. Although this one's not once per turn. And with this card, your level 1 normal monsters can beat over basically anything, since this is some of the best kind of monster attacking removal you can do. Its second effect is one when it's sent to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard in any way, you can set the original attack of all of your face-up level 1 normal monsters to 2000. That way, if this card is sent to the graveyard with Law of the Normal, it gives all your level 1 normal monsters the attack boost they need in order to OTK. And its last effect is just a graveyard effect to search out a level 1 normal monster from your deck. That way you can just float into something, because the level 1 normal monsters need all the support they can get. And with how much you are at a disadvantage with all of your level 1 normal monsters, having some kind of floating on all of these cards is just kind of a must. Okay, next up we have the Field Spell card. This one is probably the weakest one I made out of the whole bunch. Basically, its effect is, when it's activated, you can add a Law of the Normal card from your deck to your hand. So it searches upon activation, like most of the good Field Spell cards. Its next effect is kind of a miscellaneous one, not really the most useful one in the world, but I'll explain it in a bit. Basically, monsters which do not have levels on the field are treated as if they're level 12 for card effects. One of the biggest support card Law of the Normal decks got was Amulet of Ambition. And back in the Synchro era, when I first started using this deck, I was actually able to beat over most things. Because Amulet of Ambition, for those of you who don't know, is an equip card that you can only equip to a normal monster, and if it battles a monster with a higher level than it, you can increase the attack of your monster by 500 times the difference. So, when Exceeds monsters came out, and even further with Link monsters, monsters who do not have levels and were the most prevalent monsters on the field, Amulet of Ambition kind of became worthless, and it was no longer a viable tech option to this gimmick deck. So with this Field Spell card, that becomes an option again, but then again, Amulet of Ambition's kind of been power crept. It wouldn't be good even if they did have levels nowadays. I just really wanted the card to be live again, so I added this little part to this Field Spell card. That way, Amulet of Ambition could be used, and if your level 1 normal monster battled a Link monster or an Exceeds monster, it would gain like 5,500 attack. Next up, if this card would be destroyed, you can send a level 1 normal monster from your deck to the graveyard instead, or if it would be sent from the field to the graveyard, because Law of the Normal doesn't actually destroy. I think, let me double check that real quick. Actually, never mind, Law of the Normal does destroy. Whatever, it's protected either way. And finally, its last effect is you can pay 500 life points to normal summon a level 1 normal monster from your hand. And since its last effect doesn't have a once per turn, it can be used to swarm your field if you're unlucky enough to have all of your level 1 normal monsters in your hand. It's kind of a alternative option of swarming, just in case you did draw into all of them. Now, not the best card of the bunch, but I think it's good enough. It searches when it's brought out, which makes it worth using on its own. It has built-in protection, which also allows you to set up your graveyard, and it even allows you to swarm from the hand a bit. I wasn't sure if the 500 life point cost was necessary or not, but I didn't want the card to be, like, abused by other decks that aren't Law of the Normal. That's just me trying to balance it a little bit. I didn't want to special summon the cards from the hand, just in case there was some kind of special summon restriction on the field. They could just get past that with normal summons instead. Alright, next up, I have a quick play spell card. This one has the effect, you can target 2 level 1 normal monsters in your graveyard and special summon them. Those 2 monsters' original attack become 2,000. And during either player's turn, you can banish the card from your graveyard to double the attack of all face-up normal monsters. And then I just put a clause so the double effect can only be used once per turn. Now this card is basically a 1-card OTK, because you can bring out 2 monsters with 2,000 attack and then double those attacks to have 8,000 points of damage on field. I gave its double attack option as a graveyard effect, just in case you're setting up Law of the Normal, you're not going to have any cards in your hand, and you want to be able to give them the attack power from the graveyard. And its graveyard double attack effect was basically the whole point of this card. So its first effect of just bringing out 2 monsters, I thought would just fit with the swarm theme of the deck. And also setting their attacks at 2,000, just seemed natural. Also, for the fact that this is a 1-card OTK, if there's a clear field and it doesn't get stopped. And the only reason I made it quick play was because its effect in the graveyard is a quick effect, and most quick effects from the graveyard need to be quick play or a trap card. I mean, if the card says it can be used during either player's turn and it's a normal spell card, that's what it's going to do, but most of these kinds of cards are trap cards. So I thought making it quick play just would make more sense for its graveyard effect. And lastly, I created a monster card for this, Little Ragnaros. He doesn't actually share the Law of the Normal name, because I don't actually want it to be searched out with all the Law of the Normal stuff. The card artwork is just a character from WoW. I thought it would fit, because one of the best level 1 normal monsters is Charcoal Impachi. who's a fire pyro type monster with 2100 defense. So this card is basically just a homage to an actual card in the game that's one of the cornerstones of this gimmick deck. It's funny to say that there's cards that are cornerstones to this deck, when this deck is entirely a gimmick and not even a very good one at that. The card has the effect where it's treated as a normal monster while in the field, hand, or in the graveyard. That way it can benefit from some of the normal monster support. And he also has a hand effect and a graveyard effect. I didn't give him any kind of effect on the field because I basically wanted him to be treated as a normal monster while on the field, to just kind of blend in with the other ones. So its hand effect is during either player's turn, you can just negate the effect of one card on the field to special summon a level 1 normal monster from your deck. Now this effect is actually pretty strong, and that's why I made the special summon a level 1 normal monster from your deck a mandatory part of that first effect. That way you can't negate something unless you also special summon a monster from the deck. You know, to kind of quasi-balance it out so it's not used in other non-Law of the Normal decks. And the reason behind this effect is, you know, just in case there's a macrocosmos on the field or some other effect that completely shuts you down or locks you down, you have some archetype support for negating, since none of the cards actually destroy, which is why these cards kind of miss the mark a little bit, I think. The only monster removal among all of these is Shock Trooper's Banish effect, which you have to attack for, or of course just using Law of the Normal to get rid of everything. Well, this one is just, you can use it during your turn if you need to get out one more monster, or if you need to negate an effect, which is always good. And then its graveyard effect is you can banish it to add a Law of the Normal card from your deck to your hand, giving a second searcher to this archetype support. And banishing it from the graveyard kind of goes counter to what this deck wants. They want as many normal monsters in the graveyard as possible, but I'm pretty sure the other cards can accomplish that well enough. Alright, and those are the 5 cards I created. All of them have lots of swarming power, lots of ways to interact with the battle phase, and lots of ways to set up the Law of the Normal combo, while also allowing you to search it out. Out of all of them, I think maybe Little Ragnaros is a little bit too strong, because of its just negate anything on spell speed 2 from the hand effect. But I might be underselling myself. These are all hypothetical cards. I don't know how they would actually work until people actually, you know, use them. And I had a lot of fun making these. I spent way more time than I really should have thinking about these cards. Because I got asked the questions like, which cards would I want for an archetype? And I was like, I'd really like some more Law of the Normal support. But level 1 normal monsters are so bad, like you don't even want them in your hand, that the support cards around them would have to be inherently broken for them to even stand a chance. And I think even with all the cards I made, it probably still wouldn't be a top tier deck, like the way I want it to be. And mainly because one of the hallmarks of a deck that actually does well is having some kind of spell speed 2 destruction effect, which this doesn't have. I kind of want to avoid just a straight up destroy cards on the field effect and focus more on the battle. So I tried to make the effects really strong to compensate for that. Alright, so what did you guys think of these custom cards? This video? Do you want to see more like it? Do you want to see me review some of your custom cards? If you send custom cards, I don't want them to be for a made up archetype. I want them to be like what I did here. Just make sure there's only 5 of them. They support an existing archetype or gimmick, and that's about it, really. And also know I make no promises that I'll actually review them or make them into a video. You know, just in case, because I know some people sometimes get really mad at me when I don't make a video about the deck they've sent me before. This is just kind of to cover my bases there.